Michael, are you further back from your mic than normal?
No, I'm...
there, you're louder. Episode 149 of We Were Gamers. Do we know how microphones work?
We'll see as this podcast continues.
Stay tuned for the riveting conclusion of do we know how to do what we've done or gonna do. I'm not very clear. Been drinking lots of beer. I can't rhyme clear and beer.
I'll say that I'm pretty jealous this week of both you and Michael, who live in an area in proximity to a fun beer place that does a thing.
We can shout them out.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. We don't give people
no
free
shout outs without sponsorship.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Oh, man. The week of Logic is currently going on, which is a week-long beer festival for my favorite brewery in the county and one of Michael's top, maybe.
Probably top 2.
There you go. And that means we're going to do this podcast a little tipsy. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all are. I had a glass of wine with dinner and that's it, but
okay.
We're still in there.
We in here. There were some great beers tonight. There's going to be great beers all week. I think so far of the 2 days we've done, man, there have been a lot of stouts.
Yeah.
But I think yesterday's, what was that one? What was the special one yesterday, Michael? I can't remember.
The horchata?
Yes. Yeah, I think that their horchata might be better than the brewery's horchata.
It was really good.
Have you all had the stone one? There's a stone horchata one. That's my only experience with a horchata.
Do you like it?
I like horchata.
Okay.
This was a stout, so like it's on the spectrum of beers I don't generally like, but it wasn't awful.
I tried that new Berliner version of pineapple or passion orange guava.
Okay.
They have passion orange guava is like a Hawaiian drink or whatever.
Right.
They used to do one of those here that was just a normal, was a Pilsner, Michael, I think. Now they're doing it with a Berliner.
Yeah.
And the Berliner one is kind of like a little bit tart, so it's like tastes just like juice. It's really not safe.
Fun.
Really good, though.
Yeah, just completely unsafe. Hides 8% alcohol really well. Oh, okay, that's enough about beer.
Well, I can tell you what, while you guys were off drinking beer tonight, I was shooting people in the face.
So you've continued
in Apex Legends.
Yep.
I will say that my team got second place one time through no help of my own.
Okay.
I was slain early.
So then you just watched?
Well, I mean, at some point, you can resurrect people in that game and respawn them and stuff. But at some point, when you die too far outside the ring, your team running back to resurrect you and then bring you forward is more work than it's worth for the team. And that's what happened to me. So I rode along, but we got second at all that. So, hey, the other 2 people did. I killed one person before I died. So that was something.
1 for 1.
Nice.
Yeah. But seeking directly into the news, since we're already talking about Apex, they released that Battle Pass, finally.
Did you purchase said Battle Pass?
I did. I figured, I played a lot of this game already. I could kick them $10.
Okay.
And so I did. Don't know if it's worth it. But in theory, the Battle Pass not in theory, the Battle Pass lasts like 90 days or something.
Wow, that's a long Battle Pass.
The end of their season. And, it's active through that whole time. You're gaining various rewards and stuff. But if you get to the maximum level of the Battle Pass by the end of that time, you will earn back all of the premium currency that you spent on it. So,
really?
Yes.
They're expecting you to spend that premium currency, not realizing that you could buy the next Battle Pass with it.
Or they're expecting you to then just constantly purchase the battle passes over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And then never, and then when you have a little bit of the extra currency lying around, be like, oh, well, I could just buy one of these loot boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be 50 coins short or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. I felt it was worth it. I played a lot of that game. I could give them $10. I played enough, a little bit every other night or so, and I want to believe that maybe that will be enough for me to hit the level, but I guess we'll see. The stuff you're getting for it isn't that exciting. It's like, oh, hey, here's a skin for this gun or a kill tracker or whatever. It's not really that exciting, honestly.
And it didn't include the new character either, did it?
No, it did not. But you do earn credits towards those characters by leveling up.
What does that mean? Credits towards the characters?
So, there's multiple kinds of currencies, because a free-to-play game has to have, 5 different currencies to confuse everyone.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there is one currency that you earn every time you level up that allows you to unlock new characters. And you earn. And as you're leveling up the Battle Pass, you are still earning that currency. So
in 6 years, you can buy one of the 3?
It doesn't take that long. I unlocked the first one by the time I was account level 20-something. So by the time I hit account level 40 or 50 or whatever, I should have enough for another one.
Oh, wow.
And the Battle Pass ones should only add on top of that, I think. So
that's relatively generous, I guess. I have not been as adventurous in my gaming, Michael.
Well, because I'm in the middle of 2 different games already, I decided to launch something new over the weekend.
Of course you did. That's the only way to play games.
Yeah, right?
You'd never play them all if you didn't do that.
Yeah, so I had picked up 2 during the Steam Lunar New Year sale. And I told you guys about the first one, Edge of Eternity, which is still in alpha. But I decided to launch the other game that I got, which is Iconoclasts. Which is one of my favorite styles, another Metroidvania. But this one takes place on like many of them, takes place on a different planet. And you play as a mechanic, which is a highly regulated profession, but you practice in secret outside of government regulation.
Ooh, you're like a witch.
Basically, except with technology instead of magic.
Technology witch.
Yeah.
I've seen this before. Are you on Mars?
Yeah, so you have the ability to manipulate machines with the wrench that you have inherited from your father who was killed. And you are out to, topple the corrupt structure.
Is there a Deus Ex Machina somewhere in this?
I don't know yet.
Uh-huh.
Are wrenches lost technology?
Maybe it's the fabled,
I wouldn't say they're lost, but I would say that it is illegal to have one.
You can't own a wrench?
Man.
No.
Truly the darkest future. Wrenches are outlawed.
Oh, man. What will I do with my socket set in the future?
They're like futuristic space wrenches.
Oh, okay. You got to regulate space wrenches. They're too crazy.
Yeah.
It's like the doctor's sonic screwdriver.
Yeah. It's not just a screwdriver.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah. I would really love to know the limits of his sonic screwdriver.
I'm sure you could Google it.
I'm not. I don't need that rabbit hole.
Is it a Time Lord or someone could tell you? Is that how that works? I don't watch that show. Jokes.
How is it so far, Iconoclast?
It's good. I like it. There's it's not super difficult. So there are 3 difficulty settings on it. There's easy, normal, and hard. And you can actually change the difficulty every time you launch it. Like every time you load back into your game, you can reset the difficulty if you want to. And normal is a pretty casual play style. The damage count is pretty forgiving. So it's been fun to play through. I could turn it up if I wanted it to be really more challenging, but it's the all the dialogue in the game is pretty lighthearted. So it's fun to just sort of have something to do that's not super taxing.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I like that stuff.
So
It's-
I've played about 3 hours of it, maybe.
It's that one step above mind numbing where you're not playing solitaire, but like at the same time you're not going to have to plot
like,
out 6 turns of battle
It's
tech
not
moves.
match 3,
Right.
but yeah, there's story and fun mechanics.
Well, we're going to be I think we have to break down here into what I would call maybe like our base camps, maybe, to do this piece of news, because there's a 3-pronged news thing here that we got to tackle. JJ, you're a pretty big Google guy.
I use one of their phones.
Michael, you like the Nintendo.
Long-time user.
I've been known to own an Apple product or 3, and they all have something in common this week. All 3 of these companies have decided they're going to do something new in games or with their games.
Kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo's maybe doesn't break the box as much as these other 2 are trying to do, but they did attempt with the Switch to break the box, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be attached to the TV if you don't want to. And then, what are they saying now, Michael?
Well, now
even less so.
Well, they've decided to implement skill trees.
What? Wait, what?
So you can branch your Switch off in one of 2 directions.
Can I branch the Switch that I currently own?
Probably not.
That's going to be a hard no, dog.
You've already started the game, Andy. You can't. You can't reroll. You can't reroll.
No
the
respect.
Switch.
Not
What?
allowed.
What is this?
Just like World of Warcraft in the beginning, you got to pay a bunch of money to be able to re-roll your spec.
2004, no free respec.
Same here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we I think we discussed this briefly earlier when we heard it just as a rumor.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal
but
now picked it up.
Yeah, and I think they were the ones who reported it the first time, actually.
And
they're
good track record on the Switch stuff.
Yeah, they took a second bite at the apple here and are reporting that not only is Nintendo planning on releasing a new Switch, it is sounding like they will be releasing 2 new Switches. And both of them might be this year.
I really gotta wonder. And I guess they sort of say, like, speculatively, maybe one of these Switches is, like, slightly more powerful, and another one is slightly less powerful, but maybe not as TV capable.
And also not as expensive?
Potentially. I gotta wonder, it feels like the Switch itself already is straddling that line pretty hard. And if you try to lean one way or the other way, do you kind of just lose the stuff
Yeah.
that makes it fun?
Yeah. So definitely on the low power end, right? Like, do you want a handheld Switch that doesn't have Rumble because they took it out to save money? Do you want a handheld Switch that doesn't have the dock because they took it out to save? Like, I'm not sure there's a market for. I guess the 2DS is doing quite well, and maybe that's why they're thinking that this is the wave of the future.
Yeah, I guess, like, I barely use the Rumble currently, right? So it's like, all right, if that left, I would not be sad. But, it does add stuff. It is fun sometimes when they have it, during a cutscene or as part of the gameplay or whatever.
Sure.
So like, if it was completely absent,
you wouldn't notice.
Maybe, but then maybe sometimes every now and then you would. I don't know. That seems less bad than the, like, actually you can't plug it into a TV anymore thing, which is, like, way worse.
Yeah.
Or is it just a repackaged version of the current one with no Rumble and you have to buy the dock separately?
I don't think they would totally go away from the ability to dock it. Even if you do have to get it separately, I think they would still leave that capability in there. Because that's one of the big selling points of the Switch, right? Is that you can play it on a big screen, or take it mobile.
And I think that's fine if they leave the hardware in it, but then just don't include a dock. I don't even know how much the docks sell for. They're not that cheap, right? Like $50 or something, maybe? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that they do sell them separately, but I don't know what the rate is.
And so like maybe that's a way to do it. It's just the normal Switch, but you don't have a dock, so they get to charge you $40 less or whatever.
Yeah. And I still think that if they're going to go that route, if they're going to make a souped up one to compete with some of the other consoles and a cheaper one to potentially replace the 3DS, that the way to go would be to when they're taking out some of those features, incorporate a slot for your 3DS game cards.
Oh, wow. No way. Not going to happen.
That would be rad, but yeah, no chance they ever do that.
That's a great idea, but what would you do with the second screen stuff? Would you put them side by side above each other but tiny?
Or just like hold it vertically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure. I mean, that's a great idea for maybe a few years further into the cycle of like, well, we're kind of running out of sales of these things on both of them. They've come with a different thing. But you got to remember, like, we're only 2 years into this thing and all the accessories. Like, a lot of people were saying, oh, maybe it'll be smaller. Maybe it'll be different controllers. Maybe it'll be you can't break off the side piece, the Joy-Cons or whatever. But
sure.
But all these companies have made the accessories and stuff. They're all going to have to fit still. You don't want to go broke doing another 2 new lines of accessories 2 years into a cycle.
I don't know that Nintendo is going to care about that, though.
Well, they've invested in that stuff too.
Sure, but like they have the forewarning, right? It's the other companies that get blindsided by it, the people that sell the third-party stuff.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just seems so weird. It's like it's only been 2 years. Why do we need a new one? It's like it's brand new, right?
Yeah.
Why are we rushing to do new hardware?
They're worried about the next generation of the other things and them losing out on sales to PS5s and Xboxes and all that. And my concern is, we put out a more powerful one. More powerful than current one, that's great, but it's not going to be more powerful than a PS5, so still you're not going to grab that market. And the more you fragment the development process of like,
right,
we got to make sure that there's double texture assets because then the higher powered one can grab these assets, but the lower powered one can grab those, or it can run a higher, like.
It's going to do the same thing that happened with the new 3DS or whatever, the one that was like the up-spec 3DS. There's like 6 games total ever that came out that took advantage of the higher power, and the rest were just regular 3DS games that happened to run slightly better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, great, whatever. I don't know. I have this one. I'm not going to buy another one.
Yeah. It's an odd piece of news, especially in the face of maybe some more future-leaning ideas that came out from Google.
Yeah, so Google announced this thing, and I am very torn on this announcement, I have to say. They called it Google Stadia. It is a game streaming service. They announced it at Game Developers Conference, the GDC that's happening, I don't know, wherever that is.
Northern California somewhere in San Francisco, I think.
And it was primarily like a developer-focused talk, so they sort of talked about what this platform can do.
It's a Game Developers Conference.
Correct. And it is a platform for running games in Google's cloud infrastructure and then streaming them to a home device as a video stream. Then you play with your controller either at your PC or on a phone or your TV or whatever screen you happen to have. That's their pitch anyway. And then that all those inputs on your controllers feedback through a Chromecast or Wi-Fi or whatever to Google's cloud infrastructure that then talks to the server that is actually running the game and rendering a video out to your Chrome browser.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty different way of playing games, right? There's no download ever. You just click play and it starts the game.
You play some sort of service.
So that all the pricing stuff is completely not disclosed. They haven't talked about it at all. People have asked them and they say, we're going to talk about it in the summer. So that's going to be the real question here. How do you get access to these games?
I think the real question is, what's the lag?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have asked people those questions, and they've talked about it a little bit. People have taken demos at this GDC conference and said that it seemed to be okay. But of course, demos, who knows how it would be like in real world, right? They also ran a beta called Project Stream a few months ago. I feel like we may have talked about it, where you can stream Assassin's Creed. One of the new ones is Odyssey, or the one before that. Anyway, the other Ancient Egypt one, to a Chrome browser like this. And people didn't report horrible input lag. It required a internet connection of like 25 to 30 megabits. So it's not nothing. It's like a sizable amount of internet to be required there, right? So there's some sections of the United States, at least, that aren't going to be able to reach that cap. And then you have the other issue of every second you're playing, it's taking this amount of data down. What if your ISP has data caps? Which is totally a thing in some parts of this country.
It's actually a thing in almost everybody has data caps. I think the fiber companies, maybe that's their advertising. Oh, we don't have caps because our service is direct to your house or whatever, so it doesn't matter. But all the other ones do, even though I don't think they're enforced really.
And they're also very high, right? It's like terabytes and terabytes of data, which you should never really be hitting through general internet use currently.
Go back to the early days of this podcast. You can hear our wonderful opinions on data caps and why they're completely arbitrary.
Exactly. And so, if all of a sudden you go from, okay, well, I have to download this game and it's going to be me using the full bandwidth of my connection for 5 hours or whatever to download it, to every second I'm playing this 40-hour game, I'm taking down 25 megabits or 30 megabits or whatever it is. That's a big change.
Yeah.
So that's worrying. However, the technology and stuff that they showcase sounds very cool. The videos, they say, will run in 1080p or 4K, 60 frames per second across the board. They say the latency is not a problem, but of course they would say that. And because all the rendering is done in Google's infrastructure, you don't even need to have a good PC to play it. You can play this on a Chromebook and it will run at 4K with 60 FPS. A little netbook with no graphics card whatsoever, or on your phone potentially. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot to promise.
Right?
People are too young to remember this. But a whopping
back in my day,
but a whopping 4 years, all the way up to 4 years ago, there was a company that promised all these things. So Google has repackaged an old idea. I don't know if anyone remembers the company OnLive.
Oh yeah,
yep.
But
OnLive, I don't think even promised even this level of stuff. It was way lower level of stuff.
Right,
and they couldn't even deliver that.
They were unable to deliver that with millions of dollars of financing. And Sony Entertainment bought them and has done nothing with any of that because
I believe that service that Sony runs now is called PlayStation Now, and they bundled that OnLive stuff with another company they bought that did streaming stuff called Gaikai.
Yeah.
And now that PlayStation Now thing is a thing that people use, but it's not lighting the world on fire.
Very limited in scope.
Yeah. However, I mean, if there's a company with internet infrastructure to do stuff, it's Google. There's literally no other companies.
What happened to Google's internet infrastructure project?
They didn't want to do like ground level internet infrastructure. They more meant like internet backbone infrastructure.
Yeah, it turns out when they were like, oh, we'll do fiber for people, and then, oh, wait, this is really insanely expensive, they stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's great to promise all these things, but I have a lot of skepticism considering there was a company out there that did exactly this stuff and it did not go well.
Yeah. I think bandwidth is up a bit since that time, so that's at least something. But yeah, it's worrying. And then you get to the concepts of there's a bunch of YouTube integration, because of course there would be, right? It's Google. They own YouTube too.
Right.
A bunch of integration with stuff because the game state and all this is stored in this server. You can click links and stuff that will take you to the exact save moment of another person's game, and you can pick it up right where they left off, or if it's a multiplayer game, potentially jump into the same game with them. All this sort of like, no host needed multiplayer stuff. Very interesting, potentially, for developing new games. But like, again, there's no, they showed tech demos of this stuff. There isn't a game here yet.
Right.
They did announce that they have a development studio now in-house that is developing games specifically for this thing. However, they also said, like, yeah, if games release both here and in other places, we're fine with that. So, I don't know. And then, if you don't ever download the game, there's this whole concept of ownership. Do you even own that game?
No.
Just like how, at least when you own a license for a game in Steam or Origin or these online PC clients, or even on your PS4 or Xbox or Switch even, there's a storefront. There are ways to say, hey, I own the license to this game. I can re-download it from them as long as they're available. When everything streams from their stuff, what if? Can I download backups? Can I play the old version?
No, it's
are they just a blockbuster?
It's the concept of trying to create the next Netflix, right? Like everyone wants to be. How do we license only and only have to deliver product through the internet for limited cost? And limited cost means not eternal licensing of something.
Well, we don't know because they haven't announced any of it. Like maybe you will always be able to play old versions or whatever. They just spin up a new VM for you and attach that old build to the thing and it'll crash on you, but hey, that's your choice to play it or whatever. Yeah. Who knows? Or maybe, like you say, they just have their rotating catalog of here's what's available today on Google Stadia, and oh, sorry, that game you liked isn't here anymore, but you were only paying $10 a month, so it's fine.
Until we come to a new licensing agreement with Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed is back down for the next 6 weeks or whatever. Right. Is what I expect more than the Steam version of like, it fell off the service after 6 years because of licensing, but you still have it, so you can download it.
I think it could go either way, right? You could see it possible that they would be able to do those sorts of deals whichever way, but who knows what they will choose to do because they haven't said.
I'm not predicting either of those things. I'm predicting a more Google Plus related ending to this.
It certainly seemed like they put more people in this than they did with Google Plus. The CEO of Google walked out, which is certainly a lot more than Google Plus ever got. So at least it was enough to wake the CEO up out of his, whatever stuff he's doing these days.
Medically induced, what is it?
Money coma or whatever, I'm sure.
No, the like a deep freeze,
Yeah.
Suspended animation.
Yeah. And walk him out and have him talk about gaming. So they're at least trying. But again, as you said, Google Plus and Inbox, my favorite email app, and 10 million other things have been killed by Google recently. So who knows?
RSS. Their RSS reader. Yeah. I mean, obviously those aren't money makers like everyone thinks games are, but it's weird to see we're going to break this whole system, create a Netflix idea roughly, and in the middle of a studio contraction time. It's a great time to get talent for them. Yeah,
true. And I just want to be clear, they never said Netflix-like thing. Everyone assumes that because that's the obvious move.
Yeah.
But they haven't said it. So everyone seems to just assume that will be it because it's the thing, but like no one knows.
Could be totally different.
Or everyone could be exactly right because it's the thing that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So on the heels of that, not to be outdone, but
breaking news
to be completely outdone. Apple, after GDC, I think.
Yeah, it was their own thing
at their own event. Rolled out a whole bunch of new ideas for services, including a news service, 2 new services for their TV client, and
Hey, y'all want to pay a monthly fee for magazines?
it also might include more than that, and overall, it may be a good deal. I don't know.
Okay. The headline I saw was like, pay a bunch of money and get access to magazines. And it's like, no.
I think there were newspapers in there as well.
All right, that's better.
And supporting news is maybe a good idea.
That's the part I'm on board with. It was the value proposition that didn't make sense to me. But okay.
I agree. I didn't research the news for this podcast. I just knew that they were doing a news service and 2 new TV related things.
That was the easiest one to take a cheap shot at because it didn't make any sense to me.
As these companies get gigantic and take less risks, it's pretty easy to take a shot at everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the lowest risk thing that requires no development. Okay. This TV idea, right, has just been years of licensing talks, right? Not almost no coding, but the coding could have been done faster than the years it took to get agreements with all these companies.
And so this very much is a Netflix competitor, though, right?
So yeah, it looks like the TV apps might be. Is that what you're asking?
Oh yeah, sorry. They announced a video streaming service, and also content creation for that video streaming service.
They had created their own content for their own service, which notably, unlike Roku's service, does not include Netflix as part of your subscription, but it does include an overall subscription and also pay-as-you-go channel choices on top, I think. So you can add HBO, all this other stuff. So I'm not really sure what the value add is there. I guess access to their stuff is the value add.
Right, but I'm sure they've seen it that way.
We're not here to debate that as much as we are here to talk about Apple Arcade.
Good name.
Not a bad name.
I like that name, actually.
And I also like that it's not a Google competitor. Having come so close in announcement, I saw it and I thought, uh-oh. They both had the same idea, and there are more people with Android devices than Apple devices. We're in trouble.
So, I think that no one is going to try and argue that Apple's cloud service is a competitor to Google's cloud service,
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Google's is 1 billion times bigger, and, in the business side of things, also 1 billion times bigger, although they may even lose to Amazon these days. I don't know. But regardless, Google is everywhere in that space in a way that Apple is not. So I think this makes sense.
Yeah.
Good sense on Apple's part.
Yeah. So Apple's idea instead was, hey, everything we have is going to run on iOS everywhere. But it looks like they run natively and downloaded. Looking at these game lists, they are not Quake engine games. Let's put it that way.
Not streamed.
No, they are not streamed. They are not cloud processed. They are downloaded across the thing. So it seems like they're kind of trying to streamline their game process instead of it being like a free-for-all on their app store.
So maybe they're trying to highlight some quality, bring the level of mobile game up a bit out of the maybe slightly dirty word category it has come to mean among some people. And
I think along the lines of trying to reinvest time into their TV architecture, right? They have that little box, and they still haven't done the thing that 10 years ago people were like, oh, they're going to make their own integrated television. You won't need a separate box. They still haven't done that, right?
Yep.
But they have done is put these little boxes, iOS devices pretty much everywhere with everybody. And so now you'll have, instead of going to the App Store all the friggin' time to find the new hotness, you're going to get 100 games plus exclusive. Yeah, oh, that's the other thing. They're going to have exclusive games from separate developers. I don't think that they are bringing in their own development team, although they have had game development in-house before. I don't think they have it anymore.
Who's excited to have another launcher?
It doesn't sound like it would be. I mean, I guess it would be on your.
You have a Mac, right?
Computer. Yeah. Let me double check that. It sounds like it available for iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Apple TV. Yeah, so it'll run on Mac as well. So I guess.
So now you have your Steam Mac app, you have your Epic Store Mac app, your Origin Mac app, your Apple Arcade,
your BattleNet.
Yeah.
BattleNet. Yeah, wow, wonderful.
But here's the cool thing that I think. You get the games, right? And you don't have to worry about whether you got the free version with ads or the version with DLC or blah, 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 blah. Whatever the game is that gets put into the thing is the full thing. It is a subscription also, but they've already launching with hundreds of games and exclusive games, and you can play offline. They've already said that up front because
That's good.
They're downloaded to your device. Yep. Yeah. They've highlighted Annapurna, Cartoon Network, Sega, Konami, and a couple others as people that are working on new development for their arcade service. So, it's a much less ambitious approach, I think, than Google's. Well, you can, in theory, with Google's service, you could create things that could only run on server level architecture with, 4 graphical 1080s or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like you could literally make a game that no person with a computer that costs less than $10,000 could run.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, Apple's saying, well, let's just take our devices and take this amount of, there's got to be hundreds of thousands of games that have come out through the App Store since the iPhone has launched, right?
Sure.
Half of them probably don't work anymore, but overall, it's almost impossible to keep up. You got to kind of find the lists at the end of the year and be like, oh, what are the 5 games I want to pay for next year? Gorogoa seems like a cool game, and it might eventually make it to Steam, but it was developed for mobile, so I'll play it there.
Monument Valley 2.
Monument Valley 2, yeah, right?
Yeah.
All those are going to be in this app and a lot easier for people that have these devices to find. I think of the 3 announcements, this is the one that is maybe the most muted, but also one of the coolest, I think.
It seemed the realist. The most one that's like, they could launch this tomorrow and it would be good and fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other 2 seemed a bit, well, the Nintendo one is just kind of rumor stuff, but like the Google one seems kind of like pie in the sky-y.
Well, pie in the sky-ish.
It feels like Google's diving off the high dive while Apple's wading into the shallow end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. So that would be I think the 3 biggest announcements in gaming this. Well, Nintendo's is not an announcement, but 3 kind of most earth-shattering revelations from this past week of gaming. Although we left off Nintendo VR for 3 weeks in a row now, you guys.
Nintendo has VR, Andrew?
Do you want to get a cardboard box, stuff your Switch in it, and strap it to your head?
All my dreams.
I was going to answer that with no.
Nope. Apparently, we made a sale. Just hold on, Michael, while I Sharpie Labo on the side of this and send it to your house.
Can we link that video, please? Do y'all see this video? It is very weird.
I don't think so.
No, you should.
Oh my God.
Okay, well,
hold on.
You know what I do see? I see that they made this as a Labo kit, and that is the extent of their commitment to it, and probably the extent of everyone else's commitment to it. Thankfully, right? They didn't put a whole bunch of money into molding plastic straps for your head, and it just, people might be interested in this, so we'll make a Labo kit. And you talk about kind of wading in. Apple waded in. This is like a kid's, those little inflatable plastic pools for your front yard. That's Nintendo's VR attachment.
It just sort of felt like another, hey, look at this fun thing you can do with Labo.
Right.
Where this video shows the kid basically sticking his face into the butt of a duck.
More bite-sized games and experiences.
Because as like VR,
it's fun.
64 games.
Yeah, like the 3-minute mark ish.
Even
Click on that.
control gravity, all in VR.
What?
There's nothing
What
like
is he
riding on a
doing?
bird.
You're looking into the butt of a bird to VR.
Squeeze the grip
Is there a bird?
Flap its wings.
Okay.
Tilt
Whatever.
the Toy-Con to steer.
Okay,
Grab
sorry.
This
I had
is
to.
insane.
That trailer is
Look
crazy.
strong and fast.
This
Then
reminds me
go to
of Google
Raise all the
Cardboard.
little hatchlings, and pretty soon you'll rule
Yes.
the skies.
You know, like a
Yeah.
more Nintendified version of the same exact thing.
Ready to try out faster flight? Then soar.
And I mean,
through
it is
checkpoints
literally
and
cardboard
head for
also,
the
so
goal
you're
in
right there.
Bird dash. Press the Toy-Con wind pedal with your foot for a serious boost of
Wow.
speed.
No thanks. Okay, I can click off of this.
This one
Oh,
is
and there's
the
a
Toy-Con
pedal?
There's an elephant?
Yeah, there's an elephant one too.
This is insane.
Use its trunk to paint 3D
a lot.
pictures that hang in thin air.
This is
You can
Yeah, this
even
is a
grab your
lot.
creations and move them around.
No.
There's an eraser,
Very strange.
shape
Anyway,
tools.
just that 2-second clip of
Backpens?
the guy sticking the bird on his face and
Okay.
basically just like looking up the
I'll
butt of
say-
the duck.
I'll
Why?
say, I'll
The
say it
optics
looks
are
like
bad.
yeah. I'll say it looks like they put more work into it than I was describing, but that's still not a lot of commitment on a scale of
I-
the way the
don't
VR is going.
I don't
Right.
think Andy or I have had enough beer for this.
Not yet.
Right.
So
Yeah.
get back to me at the end of the week. We have a few minutes left, and it's been a little bit of time. You guys want to do a quick component class?
I like learning.
Teaching?
Yeah.
I think you're
We're
teaching.
not on spring break
We're
yet.
not, we're not learning much. Last time we did a component class, we talked about CPUs, right? We talked about the brain of your computer, essentially.
Yeah, one of the most important parts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just like your real brain, you should probably, we talked about treat it gently. You know, when you're attaching it to the motherboard, you got to be gentle with it. You don't like to drop your real brain, not much like you shouldn't drop your processor.
Yes.
Also, like your real brain, you shouldn't let it get too hot. And
That's true.
if there's one thing that processors like to do when they're thinking, it's get quite warm.
All of that math that they're doing expends energy, and it's got to go somewhere. And where it goes is into heat.
Mm-hmm. If you let them, they will get hot enough, and there's a failsafe in them, and they just sort of shut off.
So if you've ever wondered why your computer just turns off randomly sometimes and you can't figure it out, I recommend you open your case up and blow the inside of it out. I bet there's a lot of dust in there. That might help you out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pro tip for everyone listening to this podcast.
From your friends at We Were Gamers.
One of the reasons that dust is in there and collecting on things and making your stuff hot is because there's a cooler on top of your CPU, and the dust is clogging it up.
Yeah, it's typically a big fan, but it could be any number of things.
True. It sits directly on your CPU. And let's work our way outwards. It's connected to the CPU in a way, not directly, right? You don't want things to actually be touching the chip. That could damage
Metal on
them.
metal is not the greatest conductor.
Correct. So instead, let's put a real kind of conductor in there called thermal paste.
Ugh. It might be the worst part of putting a computer together.
Oh, really?
It's certainly the easiest to screw up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
If you've never done it before, you really don't need much of it. And I promise, it seems like when you're putting one of these CPU coolers on top of your CPU that you need to use more than you do. And I promise you that like little pea-sized bit right in the center is really all you need. That's
Mhm.
it.
People swear by all sorts of different patterns of how to connect these things and how much thermal paste to use and exactly making a waffle versus a this versus a that. And I think it was Tom's Hardware a couple years ago did a very long and hard amount of testing, and they came up with put a little dot in the middle and squish it.
And then that's it. And like not even a big dot, a small one.
Pea-sized dot.
Yes. Use your manufacturer's recommendations. Don't listen exactly to us. Watch a lot of videos if you're going to apply your own thermal paste. But thankfully, many a CPU cooler that you will purchase, you will not need to apply thermal paste to get them connect to your cooler.
Because a lot of them realized people find this process to be a hassle.
Or stressful. Or worrisome.
They include a compound that is pre-screened onto the bottom of the cooler.
All you got to do is
sort of packed in there in some fashion that they consider to be good, and you just slap it on there and tighten it down.
You'll stick the pins through the board. The other side of the board, they pop through. Usually they're spring attached, so you don't have to like screw anything down. They want the correct tension, and
it's usually like a locking thing so that once you push it through, it stays there, and then you turn it like a quarter turn to keep it from popping back out.
They have these plates that generally come with the coolers, because coolers, they can't make a different cooler for every single processor. So they have these little plates that fit over the top of them to correctly adjust to the right tension and size for the CPU to get the cooler to attach to it.
Because one might be, 5 millimeters thicker or whatever, and so it has to stand off a little bit more or whatever. And that's
And then you get into the fun part. What's actually attached to it?
Big fan.
Generally speaking, it could be directly a big fan.
Bunch of fins.
Yeah, so you really don't want something that goes from CPU to contact point to fan. It's not overall the most effective idea.
Those work, and the stock ones are basically that.
Yeah. When you buy your CPU, you will get a big box, and you'll be like, wait, but my CPU is right here on the top of the box. I can see it through the little plastic thing. What is the rest of this box?
This thing weigh 10 pounds?
It's because your CPU will come with an Intel or AMD manufactured cooler, which is sufficient. Much as we talk about not wasting money when building a computer, for many people shall be sufficient.
Yes.
I can say that I have used those stock coolers on most of my PCs over the years and had very little problems with them except where I caused the problem. So they're perfectly fine. If you're not trying to do anything fancy other than use your computer for, you're not trying to do any crazy overclocking or getting the highest, most graphics, those work perfectly well, and you can save yourself a little bit of money by not buying a different one. However, if you do want more graphics or more whatever,
more number crunching,
bigger gigahertz,
yeah, you can kind of step up. If you you got to do a lot of measurement before you buy a CPU cooler that's not the manufacturer one. So
yes,
we haven't talked about cases yet, but you need to measure, roughly speaking, the case. Because the way that your motherboard will sit is generally along one side, and the CPU cooler will then stick out towards the other side of said case. And if you buy one that's too tall, you're kind of
fit. You're going to have to cut a hole in the side of your case, and then now what are you even doing? There's a whole lot of problems there.
Right. They can be huge because, as we mentioned, Michael just mentioned, fins. Michael, what would fins be?
Yeah, for radiating that extra heat you're generating.
Yeah. So these can have massive radiators on them if you want them to.
And some of them even have fanless systems, these things called heat pipes, which are pretty much what it sounds like. They're just some pipes, and they pipe the heat away to a different part of the case where hopefully there's already a fan, and then they suck the heat out through that fan.
Yep, heat exchanger.
Yep, as a big heat exchanger. And those are systems that are available. There's also the dreaded water cooling system.
Yeah.
Hey now.
Which actually most of the time doesn't use water, but a type of mineral oil.
Correct.
Because if you spilled water on your computer, that would be very bad for you. Whereas the mineral oil doesn't really conduct, so it's better. It's less bad.
So we've talked about fans, we've talked about radiators and water cooling. A lot of water cooling, you can get into huge discussion because you can water cool your whole thing, right? You can put a tank of liquid on top of it, and it can circulate through every part of your case that makes heat, and you can generally circulate a huge amount of liquid so that not a lot of stuff is heating up. So those give you about like 3 different conduction or conductors for getting your heat out. But someone along the way said, well, having this huge tank on top of my computer kind of sucks, so they've created hybrid systems too. And that's where we get into what I purchased for my upcoming PC build, which is called the Captain EX 140 hybrid cooler, and I'll send you a link so you guys can see it. 120 EX, sorry. And the 120, we haven't done fans yet, have we?
That's a size of fan.
Yeah. We haven't done fans yet. A direct connection to your CPU, but then takes the heat away, kind of like a heat pipe with that fluid, to a radiator and a fan directly attached to the back of the case to try and move the heat away as fast as possible.
Okay.
Which in theory gives you a much quieter operation. And this is one of the goals I had in building this upcoming build was I knew that it was going to be a kind of wall art piece that I was trying to build. And if it was going to be out in the open, I wanted it to be quieter than quiet. So hopefully this Captain EX is nice and quiet. It says it's got ultra silence. There are websites out there dedicated.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So there are websites out there dedicated to building quiet PCs, and this is one of the popular ones.
It definitely looks like it combines a little bit of all the technologies we've talked about here. There's a big fan in a couple places. There's radiators. It's not really a heat pipe. It's more of a fluid pipe.
It is definitely a fluid pipe. Yeah, but the idea behind
the radiator does a lot of what like the radiator for your car, for instance, is doing. It's the same idea, right? You run the water through this thing. The heat dissipates out. There's a big fan in front of it that sucks the heat away.
Yeah. So this also comes in white. To keeping with the theme.
I was going to ask. I know you picked your color scheme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes in white, and you can change it has a very, very tiny LED inside the CPU attachment. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing too.
I think those systems are always really cool, but I always get concerned about the leaks. And I know like a system like this looks like it's basically all closed essentially.
Yeah.
So, which is good because you want it to be as little open as possible for chances for leaks to happen and stuff. Especially for something like this where you're going to mount it on a wall.
My question was long term. Overall, it's a sealed system and this shouldn't be a problem, but eventually will some of this fluid escape and evaporate and then I'm going to need to refill it, or I don't know.
If the system is truly closed, it should be a very small amount over time. And yeah, maybe, just like how oil in your car eventually needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
Even though in theory, that's also a closed system.
I have yet to check the instructions on that. Maybe they do have some sort of notes like, hey, after 4 years of operation, you need to change it out with X modeled from us or something.
Or maybe they have like a little app or software thing that runs and checks the levels and says, hey, man, you're getting low. Top it up.
Yeah, so I'll report back if I find out more about that. But I kind of thought it was time to try some new technology beyond just these loud fans. See if we could get something that is a little quieter. I don't know. First experiment. I didn't want to go full water cooling, so there you have it.
The full water cooling always seems like
it's too much work. No one wants to do that much work. If anyone has any experience with water cooling and thinks that we're being overly harsh about how afeared we are of it, where should they send that?
That's podcast at weweregamers.com. We also have a YouTube channel that everyone should subscribe to. Please get out there, hit that subscribe. We're going to put this podcast and all your other podcasts eventually up there. We've got playlists too for stuff like this component class and the Star Trek subpod. Definitely go check those out.
Yeah.
And we're on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at We Were Gamers. Check us out.
Thanks for being here. More beer.
I'm going to go build a platypus out of cardboard.